You are now listening to FNB Radio.
And welcome to F&B Radio. My name is Lindsay Collins and I am your host. I know I said I was going to be in LA, but turns out I'm not. My kids got really sick. They're fine now. Let's just put that out there. But they all got the same disgusting, people keep throwing RSV around. I don't even know what RSV stands for, but I feel like it's causing a lot of people to have to RSVP no to some shit that they had to do. Because that's what happened to me. I was supposed to go to my sister's house in LA, and my little sister was coming, and we were going to fly out there together, and it was something I was really excited about. And then it just wasn't in the cards. I worked like a little elf all weekend to get my work done so that I wouldn't have to work while I was in California. I crossed every T and dotted every I, and it just didn't matter. At the end of the day, they both the two older boys got super sick the night before, and then Roman woke up that morning. And it was just a no-go. And I've never bought a plane ticket and intentionally missed it. I've definitely missed my flight like a lot of times, but I've never just sat there and known that I was supposed to be at the airport and was like, I'm not going. And even if it's for a reason that you can't really control, there's something weird about, there's something just kind of like rebellious about just sitting there and watching the clock and being like, I should be at the airport right now, but I'm just sitting here with my stuff in a bag, watching the time just tick away, being like, fuck that plane ticket, I can't go. And you have to really make peace with the fact that you're not going on a trip that you had been really looking forward to and really already paid for. You know what I mean? And it was not even that expensive. I think that helped me just say fuck it, because I was like, the ticket, it didn't help me say fuck it. I mean, there was no choice. They were just too sick. But the ticket not being that expensive did help, because I was like, man, what if I had paid like $700 for this ticket and I just have to light $700 on fire? That would suck. But I didn't have to do that. So that was cool. It was a very inexpensive ticket. I just had to deal with the extreme FOMO I had, which, it happens. A lot of people, whether they willingly miss their flight, accidentally miss their flight, or their flight gets canceled and they get stranded, that's happening to people all over. So it's definitely not just me. But it is a weird thing to have to just unpack your suitcase and you never even left your house. It sucked, to be honest. But the silver lining was that I suddenly had 4 days and I had done all my work. So I was like caught up on work and I was just hanging out at my house. It was like playing hooky. It was like I was supposed to be at school. You guys know what hooky is. I don't have to explain hooky to you. It was just like that, except I was able to get things done that I wanted to get done, like writing, like hanging out with the boys. And they just really need their mom when they're sick. It's not like I have any, physically any totally different powers than any other person that could come and help give them their medicine and bring them a cold rag and sit with them. But energetically, they need their mom, and pretty much no one else will do. And that's something that I realized isn't going to last very long. Someday they'll just be like taking a bunch of NyQuil and hanging out at their apartment, and maybe they'll call me, but they'll probably just suffer through it. So I'm kind of trying to look at the bright side and be like, at least I'm, where I'm supposed to be, being the most needed person in the room, which is always my favorite. No sarcasm. I like to be the most needed person in the room. It's just how I like to be. And I was able to stay and get to Jeremy's show at the Credit One Stadium last night, which was really, really cool. We had a friend come and sit with the boys. They're better now. This has been like a 5-day stretch. And so they were on the tail end of being really sick when I was supposed to fly out of town. And then we had a couple days for them to get on the mend and get some medicine. And so they weren't, they were just kind of laying around. And so we had a friend come and sit with them. And I went to the Credit One Stadium with Jeremy, and it was awesome. It was an art walk that was curated by I like to call her the unstoppable Chloe Hogan. And it was, I want to say 5 or 6 artists. And it was so many cool artists. It was Isabel Bornstein, Anna Chin, Lauren Ridenour, Jeremy. There was, just a lot of incredible art. Caroline Herring, Chloe was showing work in the show. Like, she's been putting out some new work that's amazing. But the cool part was they had taken a couple of the suites, like the private boxes that you can see a concert in if you're inordinately wealthy. And they had taken those and just let an artist have each one. And there was food, a different dish in each one and a different wine in each one. So people kind of came in the middle of the stadium, they had a skate rink. I'm not going to call it an ice rink because it definitely wasn't ice. They were like, it's synthetic ice. And I was like, what? But then I was like, whatever, dude. They can work all kinds of magic. And I started to think about it, and I was like, probably most of the ice that you skate on is synthetic ice. Without really thinking too much about that. I was just like, that's probably what normal stuff is when you're not in a cold place that doesn't freeze. And it would be insane to just like freeze an enormous piece of water in a giant room. But that turns out that isn't what most ice is. This ice was called glice, which sounds more like a lice treatment than it does like a skating rink. They chose poorly when they went with glice because it just sounds like lice, I get that they were going for glide ice or, that's my guess anyway, but glice just sounds like something you have to put in Willie Nelson braids and put some weird oils on your hair and shave your head if it gets bad. And I, knock on wood, have never had lice, but I do hear people talking about the treatments for lice. It's something about just going through your hair with a comb and crying. But anyway, the glice was in the middle, and there were little kids like skating. It looked like Rockefeller Center. There was a disco ball. There was a DJ playing Christmas music. And then we were up there in these boxes, just hanging out in these little VIP areas, and the people would come through and check out the art, talk to you. And it was so fun. It was one of the best like art walks that I've been to or a part of because it was just so different than what it normally is. It felt really special. It was really well done. Chloe did an amazing job selecting the artists, and I was so stoked to get to chat with the people that came through. And so if you were there, thank you for coming. And if you missed it, but you wanted to kind of see some of Jeremy's work, you have another chance this weekend because Saturday and Sunday on Harriet Street, he's showing work with a bunch of other artists. And Caroline Knopf and her husband are throwing the show at the Space. And it's going to be really amazing. So definitely pop down there. It's on Harriet Street. It's called The Space. I think on Instagram, it's at The Space Creates. And you can follow it along for more follow it along. You know what I'm saying? You can follow along there for more details, but it's going to be a cool time. I think it starts at 12 and ends at 4, both Saturday and Sunday. And there's going to be some pretty amazing art there. So come on down. You'll see me strolling around, carrying my emotional support water bottle, chatting too loudly to everyone. That's what I do when I'm in public. I just talk too loud and make a lot of friends and then realize that I don't have time to hang out with any of them. And that's the heartbreaking part. I feel so insane when I go out and I connect with people because I really do have a great time. Like I had such a good time talking to people, and I meet these people and I meet new people that I've never met before, or I just have a more in-depth conversation with people that I have met before. And then inevitably they'll ask me to like hang out sometime. And I just, my heart just sinks and I'm like, oh no, they don't know that I'm the worst. And I'm not that kind of friend. Like I already have so many friends that I don't even get to see. I can't add more to the pile of shame. And I don't say that in a way like I'm so popular. I just mean I genuinely send mixed signals to people because I'm like, I really do want to be your friend. That's real. If you've ever like met me and I was like, I want to hang out with you, it's real. But the actual execution of me getting to hang out with you, it's like slim to none. Like the chances of that happening are so fucking impossible. Like I don't know. It's not even about being too busy. It's just about not having enough hours in the day. That's all it is. And so, yeah, I've been playing hooky and just feeling the remorse of being like, I met a bunch of people that I really like, and I'm probably never going to get to hang out with them in any real way. But, when I'm older, I think that'll still be a thing. There was a guy I used to work with in New York, and he was from England, and he used to give me shit about saying I wanted to hang out and then not answering the phone. And he took it really personally, and he would be like, so just give me shit about it. And we'd be like, you know what? Someday when you're alone eating SpaghettiOs in your apartment, watching Wheel of Fortune, you're going to wish you had called me back. And I think about that all the time because that just made me laugh so much that was the most American thing he could think of, was just me being alone eating. What are they called? All I can think of is Wheelios because I said Wheel of Fortune, but it's SpaghettiOs. There it is. SpaghettiOs. And watching Wheel of Fortune. And sometimes these visions of that flash before my eyes, and I do get scared that that's going to happen to me. But, so far it hasn't. So far I'm never alone, much to my dismay. And so I don't know if that fate is coming for me. But if it is, I hope I'm eating something other than SpaghettiOs, because I honestly can't stand the sight of them. So that would be a low for me. The alone part I can deal with. Even the watching the Wheel of Fortune part, I, on some level, could get down on. But I'm like, I just don't really see myself ever being a SpaghettiOs girl. But people end up eating cat food. And they didn't plan that, I'm sure. Or Tide Pods, for that matter. People aren't like, nobody sets out to get there. So I realize it's a process. And it's still a possibility. But yeah, I hope when I'm older, I have more time to dedicate to friendships, because in my heart, I deeply crave friendships. And in my life, I deeply avoid them because I just don't have the capacity to be a good friend. And so I'm a real all or nothing person. I'm like, I'd rather just stop it altogether than to let someone down, or for someone to be like, wow, you're a real hot and cold friend, which I get from people a lot. And I'm like, maybe we should just end this right now. Maybe we'll just not even do this because I know how it ends. See, the new person that's coming in, they don't know how it ends. So they're like hopeful that we're going to hit it off, or that we already have hit it off. I mean, that's why we're talking about hanging out, but I don't know. All I'm saying is I have a long list of friends that I wish I could hang out with now. And I don't really want to let anyone down. So I'm trying to play hooky in all ways. And that's my holiday strategy. So if you do see me out, it'll probably be a good time because I'm being very, very selective. And I recommend that you do the same about where you go and what you sign up for. Just so you can preserve your energy as we barrel towards the holidays. I am having some fun though, because I've started making things happen just when it feels right, instead of waiting to be like, okay, we're going to do the holiday cookie thing with the kids on this date. I'm going to make that, like, I usually try to plan it out or have some sort of schedule, and I like try not to do things too early. But this year I'm like, whenever it feels right, I'm sort of living in the spontaneity of, I've already made Christmas cookies. Maybe I'll make them again Christmas Eve. Maybe I won't. But we did that because that was what was needed while the boys were sick and kind of hanging around. I was like, let's just do this now. We even went for a ride and just got a car wash. Like, we're just really living in the moment of the small things, because you can't help being sick. You can't help, missing a flight on purpose because you couldn't make the trip. You can't help that you're the only sister that got stuck in South Carolina and everyone else is having a ball in LA. You just can't help any of that. So you got to just lean into it. And that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I think it's called Art Fete. Fete. I think it's French, F-E-T, fete. I think it means festivity. If I had to guess, that's just my context clues. An art festival, festival, fete, feet. Feet just sounds like art feet. Like you have wow, you've got artist's feet. When I see those feet, I know you're an artist. They're all poor looking and swollen. And your nails are discolored. Let's just say fungal. Or maybe that's just my experience with artists. Maybe you know someone who's an artist that has really well kept feet, but I don't think it's art feet is the point. I think it's art fit, and it's a festival, and it's Saturday and Sunday on Harriet Street at the Space. So I hope you come to that. And then in the meantime, I've been trying to figure out just something really cozy to try to keep something cozy on the stove. I made the viral recipe by none other than Robert Pratt. I'm going to say it wrong, but I don't have time to look it up. But I think it's okay, I'm not even going to say it. It's a stew. I think it's ribioletta, but that just sounds like riblets. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. But if you follow him, which I highly recommend, Shay Robert on Instagram. Robert is just spelled Robert. But it's this beautiful vegan stew, and it starts with a bean stalk and then a kale stalk, and then you make a sofrito, which took me way back to my time at Per Se and the French Laundry, which honestly, around the holidays, I end up back in those memories a lot because, and I've said this before in this podcast, but there's no more festive place on earth than being at Per Se or the French Laundry, or honestly any probably Michelin star restaurant or a luxury resort or hotel or anywhere where they have unlimited budgets. Like that's where you want to be for Christmas, because Christmas is about extravagance and nobody goes extra as hard as Michelin star restaurants. So inevitably it's like out of a fairy tale, down to the hand-enrobed chocolates, the giveaways, the giant Christmas trees, the dragée hazelnuts, dusted in cocoa powder, the endless festive dishes, both savory and sweet, and just the display of technique. Like every single thing, they pull out all the stops for the holidays in restaurants, the best champagne, the best wine. It's no place like a Michelin star restaurant for the holidays. And you can take that how you want. But when I was making the soup, which is not a luxurious soup on its face, but in its flavor, it's absolutely one of the most luxurious things you can eat. But it's an Italian peasant dish. And you can go to Robert's page and it'll show you how to make it. And you can sign up for his Substack and it'll give you the whole recipe. I will warn you, you need 2 days to make it. So plan accordingly. I did not have 2 days because I didn't realize I was going to be home. So I didn't have any beans soaking, and I took a couple shortcuts, and he was not pleased. But you got to do what you got to do. But I highly recommend reading the recipe through all the way and taking the time, the 2 days to plan it and work through it. But the sofrito in this recipe that Robert uses is carrots, celery, red onion, olive oil, and it's kind of cooked down. And eventually you add in some tomato product, and then it gets this deeply concentrated flavor, this gorgeous almost orange color to it. And it's essentially just the most concentrated savory flavor that will add such a punch to anything that you're making, especially a broth. It kind of permeates all of the broth. And because you're using the kale stalk as well as the bean stalk, you've got all these different notes, high notes, mid notes, and then the low notes from the sofrito, these deeply beautiful notes. And it's just bread. It's beans and kale, the sofrito, and toasted day-old bread with olive oil. And it is absolutely luxurious while simultaneously being just food that is something out of nothing. You're making the most insane flavors out of nothing. But at Per Se, I remember specifically one of the chefs there was really, really crazy about sofrito. And he would make sofrito. It was usually used in some form in the base of a soup, or to kind of fortify dishes with this really intense flavor without adding bulk or stock or something else. And he would use fennel in his sofrito. And it truly is one of the easiest things you can make. It's a lot of chopping, but you just finely dice a ton of different vegetables. And the blend kind of varies depending on what cuisine you're in. But his was onion, celery, fennel, carrot, and maybe a little garlic and lots of olive oil. And then it would also get cooked down under a cartouche. And if you don't know what a cartouche is, then you don't know. But if you do, you know what I'm talking about. And good luck cutting one out of parchment. You can Google it, okay? It's a little hat for your it's a way to cook something under a lid without putting a lid on it. So it's very specific. You'll see just Google it. But anyway, and I remembered it being Christmas in New York, and I was just like hell-bent. I can't remember why I wanted to make this sofrito that he made, but I needed it for something, and I was like, I'm going to make it. And I made a huge batch, because whenever you get a recipe from a chef, they give you a restaurant version of it, which is always enormous. Like, it's so much more than any one home cook could ever need, but I didn't scale it down. I was just like, whatever, I'll make it. And it was like a giant pot of sofrito. I think I ended up freezing it and like eating it for decades, but it is truly a skill that I think people should learn. And that's what I love about the videos that Robert puts out, is he's always subtly kind of coaxing you into learning a new skill, or in my case, reviving a skill that I hadn't made since I made that one fucking giant pot. I was like, well, this is enough to last me for about 8 years. So I need to re-up now that I'm 37. But anyway, keep something hot on the stove. Keep a fire in your fireplace if you have one, or light a candle. And don't be afraid to be a hermit. I think an underrated thing is people feel pressure to like just be so social. And I'm like, you will. Like last night going out after being stuck at home and missing my flight and missing my trip, I was so happy to be out that it was good. And that's how it should feel. It should feel good. If it doesn't feel good, just go ahead and cancel it. If you're getting ready and you're like, I'm dreading this, just go ahead and pull the plug. I'm just going to say it now. Just tell them you just RSV that you have RSV, and they'll be like, cool. And I'm not encouraging you to lie, and I certainly wasn't lying, but nobody really will fact check you, is all I'm saying. If you're feeling that feeling while you're brushing your teeth that like you don't want to go to this thing, just don't go. And if it does feel fun, go, because I like the night I had last night was just pure festive joy. And it was really fun to see Jeremy do his thing and see the work and just get excited about the holiday season. So take it in small doses. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye. Bye. We're almost there. The holidays, it's almost over. Or here. However you want to look at it. I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye. 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 Bye.